Well, this morning, Trump absolutely unloaded on the Supreme Court that just made a massive problem for the American people, businesses around the world, and much more by striking down Trump's tariff plans. Now, I don't know who should be able to pass tariffs if not the President of the United States. Their specific dissents lay mostly around his use of emergency powers to do so. I think most Americans believe in the tariffs. Most people that understand that, yes, there is a temporary increase in cost to the American people. Most people understand that the pain would have been temporary, but this is what is required so that we can level the playing field to bring back American manufacturing, or at the very least incentivize, actually good competition. But the Supreme Court dissented. Of course, Amy Coney Barrett dissented, and Kavanaugh, which wrote a 63-page dissent. This is creating a massive, massive problem for the American people, as now what do you do over the billions of dollars that people have paid in as tariffs? For example, I bought a watch. I paid a $7,000 tariff. Do I get my $7,000 back, or does the government just keep that now? And I imagine that transaction happened millions of times over the past 7 or 8 months. I don't really know how you unwind this. This is absolutely a disaster. Trump dealt a huge blow as Supreme Court's rule his tariffs are illegal, and now the U.S. will be forced to pay back billions of dollars. Well, I would assume they're going to have to. I don't really know. In a 6-3 vote, the justices found the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which Trump used to apply broad across-the-board levies, including a 10% baseline rate on additional tariffs in America's 3 biggest trading partners over the shipping of illegal drugs in the United States, does not actually authorize the imposition of duties. So what they're really ruling against is not necessarily the tariffs, but the methodology in which Donald Trump used to pass them. That's an important specificity here that I'm hoping can be clarified. There can be an end around here where I'm hoping that we can get them passed. We have time to pass them in another way. I've been somebody who has paid additional costs for tariffs and happily done so because I want to incentivize making American manufacturing competitive again. Hello, hockey. HP is demanding some attention. But yes, I see. Did you go on a walk? Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the majority opinion, joined by conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett, which was a mistake, and Neil Gorsuch, as well as liberal Justice DEI Kenjati Brown, Eleni Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor, in his opinion, Roberts noted that the lengthy list of powers articulated in the IEEPA does not include any mention of tariffs or duties. So again, this is not them saying, hey, you can't do tariffs. This is them saying, well, there's a way that we would allow you to do tariffs, and this ain't it. That omission is noticeable in the light of significant but specific powers Congress did go to the trouble of naming, the Chief Justice went on. It stands to reason that Congress intended to convey the distinct and extraordinary power to impose tariffs. It would have done so expressly, as it consistently has in other tariff statutes. Accordingly, Roberts wrote, the president must point to clear congressional authorization to justify his extraordinary assertion of power to impose the tariffs, and he cannot. The White House has pledged to use other legal avenues to impose tariffs, including Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 and Section 201 and 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, if the High Court did not rule this way. The president has also floated the possibility of repackaging his IEEPA tariff regime as licensing fees. So it is not completely without some level of, counter-strike or counterpunch. Those methods are far more cumbersome and often restricted to certain types of imports or subject to expiration. Among the levies affected by this ruling are the 10% baseline tariffs on all U.S. trading partners that Trump announced on Liberation Day back in April 2025, also affected our duties of 10, 25, and 35% on goods from China, Mexico, and Canada, respectively, imposed in a bid to persuade those countries to crack down on trafficking. Tariffs of 25% imposed on nations that import oil from Venezuela, as well as other identical duty on India for importing petroleum from Russia, were also struck down, along with a 40% tariff on certain products from Brazil. This is a massive issue. This is very consistent of the Trump presidency. This happens all the time. He does something that his base actually supports. And I don't know if 100% of his base supported the tariffs. I did, even though it increased the cost of several, things through my, my everyday life. But I definitely supported protecting American manufacturing. And the way he goes about it ends up getting screwed over. As of mid-December 2025, IEEPA tariffs had taken in $133 billion of the roughly $251 billion worth of tariff revenue collected in the fiscal year. The opinion by Roberts made no mention of whether that money would have to be refunded, while conservative Justice Brett Kavanaugh noted that in his dissent, as was acknowledged at oral argument, the refund process is likely to be a mess. So they knew, obviously, I have no idea how the hell we're supposed to refund this. Democrats are going to see this as a win, but all this really does is let China destroy more American businesses faster. I understand that tariffs aren't always the simple magical fix-all, especially when we're talking about true competitive markets. But I have no issue with there being a moat around getting into this country. America represents just about the most buying power in the world. Maybe China is a little bit higher, but we import far more than China would ever dream. And that's got to stop. And we have to stop enriching countries that actively work to destroy our people through, flooding our borders with drugs and all sorts of things of that nature. Trump has responded, calling SCOTUS's slapping down of his tariffs a disgrace, and says that he has to do something about the courts. Time for a backup plan. Reinstate the tariffs. Trump has more avenues to get it done. This is the issue. So this says, calling a disgrace doesn't change the fact that the courts exist for a reason. These are leftoids saying that. SCOTUS doesn't get to micromanage America First trade policy. Trump should use every legal lever available to reinstate those tariffs fast. That's what I'm hoping, right? If we look at the stock market's reaction, I'm assume going up. Dow's up. Well, it went up, but not like crazy high. It's not over 50,000 again. So it's very odd to me that you see this too. The United States may be required to refund billions of dollars to importers who paid the IEEPA tariffs, even though some importers may have already passed those costs on to consumers. So to be clear, we paid more for the products, and then they're still going to give the money back to the importers. That's crazy. How are you even going to unwind this? It seems impossible. As was acknowledged in oral argument, the refund process is likely to be a mess. Complete joke. Corrupt Supreme Court is a total disgrace. Where's our refund going to come from? Right. How is there going to be a refund if there's no tariff, revenue? Let's tank the economy. Well done, Supreme Court. Lamar, we refund the tariffs and the company still won't lower prices back down. This is exactly how it will shake out. And the Supreme Court just made the U.S. miss out on nearly $1 trillion in tariff revenue. President Trump revealed yesterday evening alone that China-aligned parties went to SCOTUS to help them get struck down. Next year, $900 billion in tariffs, unless the Supreme Court says you can't do it. Can you believe that?
$1 billion in tariffs, unless the Supreme Court said you can't do it. Can you believe it? That I have to be up here trying to justify that with people like you. I have to put you on a stage in front of your family, but you did very well, so it could have been very embarrassing, right? You did very well. But it's a shame that I have to justify this because it's just...
Now, again, in the interest of full transparency, they didn't necessarily strike down the tariffs. They struck down the methodology in which was used to instate the tariffs. So, there will be massive consequences, but the White House, from what I've been told, has been planning a way around this. This guy writes, it's really not that dramatic. He has alternative authority to impose tariffs. This ruling invalidates the specific tariffs challenge here. It does not strip the president of all tariff authority. Presidents retain tariff powers under other statutes that explicitly delegate it, such as, again, Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, Section 201, and Section 122. The decision reinforces that broad emergency-based tariff imposition via IEEPA lacks statutory and congressional support, but it still leaves intact Congress's longstanding practice of delegating more targeted tariff authority elsewhere. So is there an out here? Yes. The left is, anytime, Trump gets slowed down even a little bit, the left celebrates it. They think it's, the most wonderful thing on earth. I still support the tariffs. I have always supported the tariffs. I hope that they can get them reinstated sooner than later so that we don't have to deal with whatever it is, refund process that, is going to be ultimately what's going on here. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Make sure you leave a like on the video. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.